everybody, welcome back. Today is October 19th, 2018, episode 6. How you doing? Today it still looks blown out back there, and I think the sun is still hiding behind the clouds. The weather was absolutely gorgeous earlier today, but the sun decided to go away for a while. And I think today and tomorrow might be the end of the nice weather for this season, and it's supposed to start getting cold again. And they're talking snow in the forecast, I think Sunday morning or Saturday evening. I'm not sure which. And I'm looking at myself in the screen, and I feel like my head is tilted at a severe angle, and I never noticed that before, and it feels really awkward. Okay, first things first, finished objects. I went and picked up some dishcloth cotton yarn from Walmart, and I am drawing a blank on what the name is, but I made myself one of the pumpkin scarves, or dishcloths, and somehow I added an extra section into this one, and I didn't realize it until after I was decreasing and casting off because the numbers weren't working for me. So I had enough orange yarn to make a second one, and this one came out just fine. Although I'd say in this part, I don't know what was going on, but something was distracting me, and I kept blowing right past where you have to make the lines here. I'm trying to think of what it was. Knit, 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 and then every so often you'd have to purl to make that line. And I was just blowing right past it, and I'm not sure if it was something I was watching or if somebody was talking to me, but thankfully I was catching it almost right away, so I didn't have to drop any stitches and pick back up or anything. One work in progress this week, another baby hat, because I wanted something that was sort of mindless in front of the TV. And I decided to try 2x2 ribbing. Now the yarn is Knit Picks Felicia yarn again, and I think the colorway might be Tea Party. I'm not sure. And I'm experimenting this time around, and I've got a light behind the computer because I was hoping that would help with the colors, and I'm not sure that it is. But it seems to be helping with the brightness in here because the last time I recorded I thought it was too dark. These are knit on US 2s, Knit Pick needles. And speaking of distractions, when I was working on the decreases for this hat, I realized somehow I managed to mess up the decreases royally. So I was pulling out the needles so I could rip back and pick up the stitches and continue on. And one of the needles pulled out, one of the cables pulled out, and I was so ticked. I can laugh about it now, but I was really ticked. And I've barely used these needles, and they're failing me. I've had them a long time, but I haven't used them very often. And for them to fail me, I was not amused. So I decided I am going to, I'm going to put this hat on DPNs and finish this hat because there is no way I can knit and try to scooch over the little gap that is now here. I'm not sure if that will, let's see, yeah. So I sent a shout out to my fellow knitters in one of my groups and said, I am going to invest in different needles, but I'm wondering, would it be better to invest in needles to keep doing knitting on 2 circs, or is it better to order the 32-inch needles and do magic loop? Well, the consensus sort of seemed to be that just stick with the 2 circs. So I have no idea what that is, but you can hear the wind. Yeah, I don't know what that was, and I will worry about it later. Actually, I think it was the garage door slamming shut. What was holding the door open just went and slid. And yeah, great. Where was I? Oh, needles. So my second question to them was, who in the group sells ChiaoGoo needles? Because I am not going to order Knit Picks needles again. Now I have plenty of those needles in my craft room, and I think I will just replace them as they fall apart rather than just like throw them all out and order all new ones. So my friend has an order in for me, and I told her it was not a rush because I do have other needles that I can use to finish this off, and then I guess I won't be doing any more of these unless I want to do them on DPNs. I will say the Knit Picks DPNs, the wooden ones, I do like those needles, but the other ones I think I'm done with. I really do. Okay, so that was my little mini rant about my knitting this week. I've got breakfast tea in here because that was what I pulled out of my tea stash when I decided I needed tea. Books. I have done no reading on books, no progress on A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, and Ender in Exile, that had expired on me. It was a audiobook from Overdrive, and I renewed it, or requested it to be renewed, and it became available almost right away, which is great, but then I didn't listen to it at all. I guess I don't have the headspace for reading or listening to books right now, and that's okay. Sometimes you need a break. However, the Magical Cat series book was still sitting on my Kindle, and I'm not sure if that's really still available to me or it's still showing up because I have my Kindle on airplane mode, so it's not syncing up with the internet yet. So that's okay with me. I'll keep reading that until it's not available, or when I have the headspace for reading something so dense as A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, because I think that might be part of my problem right now. That book is just so dense. And let's see, Coop News. I found a secret nest. Naughty girls. I let the girls out, I don't remember what day it was, and one of the orange Brahmas made a beeline for the little coop, and she was making this weird little sound. It was like a cross between a growl and a purr, and I thought, uh-oh, she's up to something. So I watched her, and she went to the coop, behind the coop, to the other side where they've dug it out a little bit more, and she went right under the coop, right to the other side, and she's still making that weird little noise, and I thought, okay, she's got a nest under there, and sure enough, she did. I looked and went, oh my gosh, there's a lot of eggs there, and I started pulling them out, and I had at least 10 eggs. And I tried taking a video, and even though it was on data, it did not want to load up to YouTube. So I'm going to try loading that up again to my YouTube account rather than try to tack it on to this video or anything. But yeah, she was not happy. And a little bit later, when I brought my husband out and said, look, this is one of the nests, he reached under and found the freshly laid egg, and it's a really awkward spot that she's got, and you can't really just lay straight and reach under. I'm gonna have to pause, stop this, and take care of whatever is making that noise. Okay, I'm back. Something had been knocked down in the wind and was caught in the wind, and it kept rolling and hitting the door jamb. So that's what that was about. The door was still open. Crazy. Okay, hutch news. Rabbits are still doing just fine. They're being really good and sweet with each other, although right before I started recording, I happened to look out into the hutch and saw a hoss trying to make hearts with shadows, so I thought they were all done with that, but apparently not. Now that it's officially going down to freezing, I had my husband order a waterer, a heated waterer for the bunnies, and that arrived yesterday. And it's, I will set that up this weekend, sometime this weekend. So, and they'll have something new to figure out. And in the meantime, with all the leaves that have fallen, and I've been sweeping them off the deck, my son has been throwing them into the coop, and surprisingly, the rabbits really like the leaves. They lay in them and they chew on them and chew them up, because all the leaves that he threw in last night are now gone. And which reminds me, I picked up another pumice stone for them to chew on, so their teeth don't get too long. And I gotta dig out where I put that and throw it out there, because they go through those pumice stones pretty quickly. So, not a lot of exciting stuff in the kitchen this last week, although I thought that, and then I started really thinking that, well, there's a couple things of note. I made a lamb roast in the Instant Pot this week, and I'm still refining my technique with that. I've looked on recipes online, and they say to cook for 30 to 40, 45 minutes, and I have been gradually decreasing the amount of time that I have it in the Instant Pot. And it's actually, I think the less time it's in there, the better. I've learned that lamb shrinks, and it can have these big, beautiful cuts of lamb roast, and it'll be, yay big, and by the time it's done with the Instant Pot, it's like, feels like half size or less. So I thought it had to do with what the amount of time it was in the Instant Pot, but yesterday still shrunk, and I had that in the Instant Pot for 20 minutes, although I got distracted with being outside because it was so nice out that I was with the chickens and my son, and it was in the keep warm for 45 minutes, so I don't know if that contributed to it or not. But what I do for the lamb roast in the Instant Pot is I put the Instant Pot on saute and put some oil in there and get it hot, and then I brown each side of the lamb roast for about 5 minutes, and then I take it out, and usually I add a little more oil and put in diced onion and kind of stir that up so it'll pick up the bits that might have burned, cooked on to the bottom of the pan, because it's stainless steel and everything seems to want to stick no matter how much oil I put in. And then I put usually a cup of beef broth with a little bit of cooking wine or sherry, and I kind of make it up as I go every time I make a lamb roast for spices, but the two I use are rosemary and thyme. And then I've got lemon and orange extracts, and I put a little bit of that in there too, along with the other stuff. And then we've got mint as well. So, and then earlier in the week, my son decided to make caramel apples, and he did it all by himself, and it turned out real well. Although I followed the directions on the back of the package, and it said melt the caramels with 2 tablespoons of water, and I seem to recall that not working so well the last time. So this time I put in corn syrup with it. I'm not real familiar with making candy, even though I've got a how to make homemade candy book. I haven't made much out of it because that is a little intimidating to me. But the flavor and everything turned out well, but the caramel was so hard and sticky that I was really worried I was going to lose some of the fillings in my teeth. So I had maybe half of one and called that good. So I've got to research how to make the caramel not so tough the next time we make it. And it might just be that I need to add more corn syrup. I don't know. Is anybody make candy out there? I mean, let me know if there's a secret to that, to making the caramel softer so it doesn't want to rip out my teeth. I also made some banana bread, and the recipe's out of my Betty Crocker cookbook, and I will share that recipe on the blog. And I've got to say that I can't believe I waited so long to try and make something with buttermilk in the recipe, because oh, that was good. I really regret waiting so long to try that recipe. And then I throw in a handful of chocolate chips into the batter, and it turns out really good. And my son loves it, of course, because who doesn't love chocolate and bananas? And let's see, what else? What else? Nope, that's pretty much it for the kitchen stuff. Not much exciting. I have been really bad with the meal planning the last few weeks, so I'm mostly been flying by the seat of my pants, which is not good because I like having some sort of idea of what we're making. Well, the stuff around the homestead, the weather went nice, turned nice. I can use the words. Starting last weekend, I took advantage of that, and I did the fall cleanup around the yard, and I took care of some chicken chores that really have been, the big chicken coop has needed a good muck out, and I was finally able to do that, and I enlisted my son's help, and he didn't complain hardly any. And then I learned that my wheelbarrow, one of the tires, was low on air. So that was really fun. And when I told my husband that, he goes, well, didn't I teach you or show you how to use the air compressor? And I said, maybe, but it's so much easier to whine to you about it. So I took a lot of what I shoveled out of the chicken coop and put it in the garden, because I ripped up all the plants in the garden and took down the bean fencing and got that all. I was just glad to be able to get that taken care of. So after I managed to just barely pull the wheelbarrow over to the garden, and I had to shovel it, shovel chicken shit into the garden. And by the time I was done on Saturday, I was so sore. Like my arms were sore from lifting the wheelbarrow and dragging it, and then my hands were sore from gripping the shovel and gripping the handles on the wheelbarrow and pulling the posts out of the garden. I was a sore girl. But I got so much done on Saturday, and Sunday the weather was not quite as nice, but still nice enough that I could go out and take care of some stuff. And I took care of a lot of other things, but there's still a few things I want to do, but I am hoping that I can accomplish it this weekend, because who knows what's going to happen the week after and after that. And if last year's are any indication, we'll have snow at the end of the month, which is not good. Not good. And let's see. Homestead, yeah. Boy, I'm kind of tearing through this stuff, it feels like. Coffee talk. Well, first thing I want to say is that there won't be an episode next week, because it seems to be that I'm falling into the habit of recording on Friday, and I will be traveling for work next week, so I won't be here on Friday. I'll be out peopling at a conference and meeting and greeting people and smiling, and yeah, I'll have my best face on, and then by the time I get home, I'll be so tired and peopled out, and I'll be exhausted and not want to talk to anybody. I said earlier, this is probably the last of the nice weather, and now as I'm talking, the sun's coming out. Although you can't really tell because it always looks blown out there now. I wish I knew of a way that wouldn't happen, but I can see the sun. I'm looking out my living room windows and I can see the sun, and I almost as soon as the sun rose, I was out walking. I did a walk around the circuit, as I call it, and it felt really nice to be outside because it was like 50 degrees out. And I had built a fire in the wood stove last night in anticipation that it was going to be around freezing when I got up this morning, and it was still 70 in the house. So I must have got the house really toasty warm last night, and my son was complaining about it being too warm, and then he doesn't sleep well, and I slept fine. It was one of the first times in a while that I slept all the way through, because I suffer from seasonal insomnia. So hunting update. Still no deer for my son. We're really hoping this is the weekend. We've got a game plan, and we've been monitoring the game cams again, and the deer seem to have moved their times from earlier to kind of mid-morning, although the evening times have kind of come back into what we used to think they would do. Does any of that make sense? Anyways, we're not going out as early tomorrow morning, so my son will be able to sleep in a little bit. We'll have lots of stuff for him packed. He can go out, and he says he's gonna sit all day. Well, I know he's not gonna sit all day, but that's what he's saying he's gonna do. So we will see. Yesterday I got a letter in the mail from the phone company, and now I almost threw it away. I almost ripped it up and threw it away because I knew it was spam. spam. It was junk mail. It was junk mail. Although I didn't know what it was junk mail from. And on the offhand, I opened it up and looked, and sure enough, it was one of those deals where it was, sign up today and get X amount of internet speed for this much and lock it in for life. Well, I've already locked in a price for life, and when I did that, the gal said, you will always be able to, you won't have to pay extra for the fastest speed available to you. This just is supposed to be automatically, you'll never have to pay higher than this as long as your account stays in good standing. Okay, I can do that. And about once a year I keep calling and checking to see if there's faster internet in my area, and this year we got it. I was so happy, and it has already kicked in. It kicked in last night, and it was so nice. Like, my son could play his online game for a little while. He's into Fortnite. Like, I think every other kid in the US right now that does online gaming. And we were able to stream something on the TV, and my husband kind of put the new internet speed through the paces, and he tried something on his computer, and it's like no buffering or anything, and it was just so nice. It was, it's the little things. It really is the little things sometimes, because our internet speed before that, it was 1.5 megabytes per second, and now we're at 10 megabytes per second. Now, I live in the sticks, as you can tell, or not, but there's not many people on my road, so there's not a huge incentive for improvements, I guess, in my area. Although in the village they've got access to the cable internet, which, if it's like what I have at my work's office, is really fast. So what a difference 5 miles makes. And then my son has decided he's not going to go trick-or-treating this year. Now, this will be the first time in 12 years I haven't gone out on Halloween. And it is the end of an era, and I'm kind of at a loss. It's one of those things that, it's coming, it's going to happen at some point, but you just don't know when. And I remember going out trick-or-treating, I think, until 9th grade, and he's not that grade yet, but he hardly ever finishes the candy that he did get, and I think he's growing up. My little boy's growing up. So I told him, all right, if that's what you want. And also, I guess a bonus is that I don't have to think of a costume to make for him. Or in past years, he's settled on something that he wanted to be, and being the crafty mom, I've made them. I've made a pumpkin costume. There was a couple years that he decided he just wanted to wear this rubber mask, where I'm not sure if it was supposed to be a werewolf or what, but he wore that for a few years, and he actually scared a little boy who was a little bit older than him, but that, when it's pitch dark out, I guess, and you're not expecting something. And let's see, he was a Minecraft creeper for a few years, and then what did he? Oh, he was the barbarian king from Clash of Clans, and then I think 2 years ago he wanted to be Ash Ketchum from Pokemon, and this was when Pokemon Go was released, and it was just a viral hit, and he said, I'd like to be this, and I said, okay, I will see what I can do. And I was really proud of that costume. And his school has a costume competition, and I don't even remember who the winner was on that one, but he's like, "Mom, it was so lame. They just did, whatever it was." And he goes, "They didn't even really, it wasn't even really much of a costume." And I think that whoever was doing the judging didn't know that he was wearing a costume. Like, the costume was so good that maybe it was cosplay, uh, acceptable, approved. I'm not really sure, but I mean, I researched the heck out of that costume, and I was scrounging the thrift stores to find a shirt that I could dye, and then I was sewing on stuff, and then how to make the fingerless gloves, and I even crocheted Pokeballs and a Pikachu. And I think the hardest thing was the hat. And I think it was the hat from the earlier seasons where it was like a red hat, white background, and then I don't know what kind of symbol it was. And I free-handed the symbol, and I was so proud of that whole thing. And then, nothing. But a few of the kids, when he was trick-or-treating, well, the parents recognized what it was and thought it was pretty darn awesome. So got that going for me. And let's see, I had to think a little bit about for my happiness for this week. Did you hear that little grammar slip? Yeah, I've been tired a lot this week. I have been listening to a lot of music since I have not been able to focus on stories or reading. It has been music, and I realized that my taste, not my taste, but what I listen to changes with the seasons. And I have a Pandora account, and I have stuff that I've got different things set up, and I've noticed that different times of the year I'm more into the big band music or the chill trance type music or the alternative rock music. And I realized that I've got different music stations set for moods as well. And I've learned that, different songs remind me of different people. Although there's singers that remind me of different people as well. Like anything Bob Dylan reminds me of my Aunt Chris. And my Aunt Bushel, who is deceased, she was a big Beatles fan. So every time I hear anything Beatles, it reminds me of her. And then I think it's Neil Diamond reminds me of my friend, particularly the Blue Jean song. And then there's there is one song in particular that reminds me of my husband, and I think it was kind of a thing on the charts when we first bought this place and started renovating it. And I am drawing a blank on that guy's name, and it's like it's his name, one name twice. He plays guitar, and I think he might have been on American Idol. I don't watch American Idol. For as much as I like music, I don't watch the music shows. And then there's a few songs in particular that just make me feel calm and peaceful and happy. And oh boy, there's one, I think the song's called Comfort Filling, and it's just so soothing to me, and it's a lot of violin, and whoever the guy has written and composed all this music, and it's available for free. So you can go to his website and download his albums. And I know as soon as I wrap this up, I'll be able to look up on my phone to see who that is. And I'll link to it on the blog in the show notes. But it's so calming. And I was, the day that I went out to the point and I came back and I plugged my phone in and I turned on Pandora, and on one of my stations, one of my Enigma stations, the music, one of the songs from Last of the Mohicans came on. And that, oh boy, that is one of those songs, or the whole soundtrack actually. It makes me feel all the emotions. And it's like if I want to start ugly crying and have a beautiful romance story, watch The Last of the Mohicans. I don't think they could remake that movie at all, because that was just, the actors were phenomenal in that, and of course the music was beautiful, and yeah, it was great. But that song, and it's like variations of the same thing, but it's all beautiful. So I guess that is it, because I can feel myself starting to ramble on. And we are sitting at, I seem to, no matter what I do, when I think I'm going to be quicker, I'm still at about the same time. So until next time, take care. Bye.